Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday, and welcome to GQUAT Traditions Family Reunion Buzz. Hello, everybody who came in early. I appreciate each and every one of you. Unbiased LLC, Lashes Journey, African Dreamin', Maria Graham, Cheryl Faulkner. Thank you, each and every one of you. It is so hot. Look, Auntie's glistening again. Hi, Rachel, Unbiased LLC. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for coming back. It is a little bit confusing because Thursdays I go on at 4 p.m., but that's such a good time for me because that's when I used to have my local classes. However, 4 p.m. is like on the West Coast, it's 1 in the afternoon. All of you who have a job and should have a job, or busy or working or something, hello, my Renaissance grandma. Thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hello, Joanne Stevens, Sissy. I appreciate each and every one of you. It had the nerve to get warm in Connecticut, but I'm actually very excited because other people in Connecticut have had sunlight and their gardens are growing, but the little niche that I live in and this little alcove of a valley, I have had no sunshine until the community garden was trimmed this week. Hello, Crystal Ho Newer's perspective. She's getting in her car and listening. Me too. And guess what, you guys? It was so hot today. I have all these little like ice packs and everything in the freezer. I had the nerve to take one of these and put them in back of me. Roscoe said, "Oh, he loves my top." You know what? Great minds think a lot. I want to take credit for this, but it was so hot. And this I have so many of these little things, and I remember when Lady Cheryl used to go live, she used to wear these caftans. And then the other night, Miss Shirley, the OG gardener, she had one on. And then Gina last night, I said, "Oh, I'm in. I want in. I want in." Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm sure everybody is already tired. You've been busy all week. Today is Saturday, working in your garden. And I just want to say something about mail. So, see, I didn't go to the, I think I have the one of the worst post offices in the United States. I usually go at 8:30 in the morning because I can't stand a long time. I have neuropathy and a bunch of other stuff. So I make sure I'm the first one there when they open in the morning so I can get straight in, get my mail, come out. But I was supposed to get a package from my sister yesterday, delivered yesterday from Joanne Stevens. She said, "Oh, it'll be there when you get there." Well, I know that at my post office, they don't even put the mail out until at least 10 a.m. So when I get in at 8:30, if they have mail from the day before, it's not there. So since my mail from my sister and some other packages I was expecting were supposed to be there yesterday, I went today, there was nothing. And I waited a little bit later until 10 o'clock so the mail would be out. Nothing, 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 nothing. Hello, Grammy's Journal. Hello, Sassy. Thanks for coming. Sassy, Sassy. I saw your little sassy self at the rodeo. That was fun. As a matter of fact, I wanted to show you one of my handbags, Sassy, that I must have had this bag for 40 years when I used to have horses. And the reason I bring that up is because it's a tiny little, back in those days, over the shoulder or shoulder bag, and it was by Gucci. Well, that was like a big save up, like my dream bag when I had the horses. But Gucci, for those of you who don't know, They didn't start off making clothing. Hundreds of years ago, they were saddle makers for the kings and queens of different countries and the different maharajas. They made saddles for the polo ponies and whatnot. So this particular bag was made like an English saddle. It was small and leather, and I just kept it over all these years. They can return your money for not delivering on time. I'll tell you what they're going to tell you, sissy. They're going to tell you that it's not guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. What about the time I sent you some frozen meat and they did that and it didn't get there and it ended up getting there later on in the week and smelling like a dead body at your mailbox? Hello, G Mama Grows. Thank you for coming and welcome. Erica Taylor, Auntie Bev. Hi, Auntie Ellen. Just wanted to sneak and say hello. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, how is the weather where everybody is? Do you all have good weather? Are you getting rain? Those of you who are in other parts of the country who have been getting drowned and whatnot, you'd love to see that Gucci bag, Auntie Ellen. Oh, you love Gucci? I actually just sold a bunch of them because you know what? Auntie ain't trying to get into something out there on the street for somebody who sees it and recognizes it. And all of my stuff is vintage. You know, it's the old school stuff, not the stuff that's made not in France or not in Italy, if you get my drift. I've been seeing things on the internet where people stop buying those so-called designer bags because they're made in the same places that the knockoffs are made. Hot as Hades in Georgia. Cheryl Faulkner says, right, Erica. Hello, Martika. I don't know if I said hello. Hello to everybody. Central Valley, California is 107. Oh, Sassy, I didn't realize you were in California. I lived in California for about 20 years in different places. The vintage stuff is the best. It's the real deal. But I said, you know what? The stuff, I don't even wear it. It's just in storage or safe deposit box. So I've been taking it out little by little, selling it. I have a pair of vintage spurs that go on your dress boots. Some of you have seen in some of my posts that I have new cowgirl boots, you know, with all the silver trim and whatnot. And I wear them with my jeans. I wear them with parties. I wear them. I don't go to parties anymore, not since the you know what or clubs or anything. But when I did, I was hooked up. I was hooked up. So everybody says it's hot. I know that Cheryl Faulkner used to live in the Phoenix area. How hot is it in Arizona, you guys? You need a bodyguard with all my treasures. You know what? Honestly, Auntie Bev, I there was a time I would have needed a bodyguard, except I was the bodyguard. Somebody G Mama says she loves cowgirl boots. I There was a guy that used to shoe my horses before I came back to Connecticut about 8 years ago and I was downsizing. I had cowgirl boots and like gray suede, rust. I mean, I don't even know how many. I must have had 10 or 15. The real Stetson cowboy hats, the big silver buckles with your initials in the gold. We used with the gold. It wasn't real gold, it was plated gold. But it was so much fun. Oh, Maria Graham says, don't forget, you guys, I have a membership now. And if you'd like to help the channel to grow, I think there's a button that you click on, and it's $1.99 a month, and it will help the channel to grow. I'm not trying to get rich. I live on a fixed income, and I'm cool with that. I've already had everything I wanted in life, and the other things I can save up and get G Mama Gross says it's 75 and raining in Ohio. Your rain is coming our way. It's coming our way. But, now it's time to let some things go and give others the opportunity to have some of the things that I've had. I don't want to. Sassy says the experience was sassy. Welcome to GQUAT friends and family. I'm so new with this. I think Sassy just joined the family channel for the membership. G Mama Grows. Thank you, Sassy, for joining. I don't even know how to do that. Thank you for posting the link. Joanne Stevens asked me how to do it. In fact, one of my cousins I told about the channel, about the new membership, because I'm not trying to make money, but like I said, I just want to stay in the game. Or like I have a couple packages to send out to help with the postage. The postage is so ridiculous. Hey, Hudson. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And Sassy, one of the things I will be doing with memberships, I want everybody to know how to do some things. Everybody who everybody who joins the club, I'm going to send a small a piece of fabric big enough to make at least a mug rug. Why? Because everybody needs some type of basic skill. You have to know how to. All of you, how many of you are preppers? Put a one, put a one in the chat if you're a prepper. Anybody that has like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months supply of food, a what do you call it? A bag for if you get hurt or something, for water. Suppose there's no water. Water is drying up. I know for a fact when I'm in Arizona that the water is very limited. The water in Arizona comes from the Colorado River. The Colorado River is dried up. It's going to California. Suppose those of you who are preppers, suppose you get a hole in your sleeping bag. You have to know how to do something to fix it. Or your backpack, suppose the breaks. I want you to know at least how to thread a needle and do something basic. So everybody who is a a member, also when I have something to sell, I will offer it to the members. Now, there are different levels. Everybody who subscribes, well, let me just say this. Welcome to GQUAT Family Reunion Bus, where real friends, good friends, become family, and family is everything. I have Joanne Stevens and I have friends that we have known well over 70 years. I'll let her tell you how old she is. Hudson says she has iron on patches, but the patches don't work when it's 118 degrees, Hudson. They melt, they come off. A resilient dad says 101 in the Bay Area today. Keep cool and stay safe, fam. Exactly. A resilient dad. I think I told you that I had a couple of Cane Corsos in the San Francisco area. I'm gonna have to post of some of my dogs. I had show dogs, and when the dog was a rare breed here in the United States, I just love them. They're just too big now for me not only to handle. Mine weighed 160, 170 pounds. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you about this quilt in back of me. How I got into the Cane Corsos is that I had a German Rottweiler. Why do I say a German Rottweiler? Because in Germany, they were working dogs. They weren't real big like the Rottweilers in the United States today. In addition, the German Rottweilers had like patches of tan above their eyebrows and on their cheeks, special markings. So I had a German Rottweiler. I don't even want to I don't even want to tear up today. His name was Hannibal. Now, he was not named after the movie where the guy goes around eating people. My Hannibal was named after the African general who crossed the Alps with elephants. So that was my Hannibal. And speaking of when I did used to go out and go to the clubs, I might have had, might or might not. I know everybody doesn't wear furs, but back in the day, I did. I was dragging mink coats. I'd go to the club, I'd come home, come back, and my mother would say I would put Hannibal out in my garage so that I would let him in my house before I walked into the house. And mommy would say, did you let Hannibal in first? Yep, I let Hannibal in and Handy Finger too. We all went in together. But anyway, I went to the North Carolina homestead in 2002 because the property had been empty there for several years. It had been leased. We had a property manager. But in 2002, I was thinking about an early retirement from Connecticut. You love the quilt in back of me. I'm about to tell you about that one, Maria. And so I went down there and it was so hot. Poor Hannibal had a heat stroke and died. He just died. I was hysterical. I was hysterical. He was like a 95-pound dog, big, big, and he loved his mommy. We used to practice like jumping up and down on 4-foot walls. He could climb ladders. He could do just about anything, trained to hand signals. You could ask me about Hannibal 6 months later, and I would be like, you know how the little kids cry and they get that ugly cry, like, oh man, I couldn't stop. Lake Mead, we know where Lake Mead is, Resilient Dad. As a matter of fact, Joanne Stevens and her husband Roscoe lived in California. When I first moved there, I lived with them because they wanted me to find out about California before I got my own place. Then later on, when I got my own place, I lived in places like Venice Beach, Baldwin Hills, and out in Rialto, California. Uncle Roscoe used to take his boats to Lake Mead and the lakes around there. Hey, Diversity Love, thank you for coming. So Hannibal had a massive heat stroke, and I had to bury him. I was hysterical. Have any of you heard of art therapy? Well, what art therapy does is it takes your mind off whatever's stressing you, whatever problems you have. And when you're doing, they how they say it's hard to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Well, it's hard to create something beautiful, to make something with your hands and then concentrate on something that hurts or something that upset you or something that somebody said to you that made you mad. So quilting, painting, all the different crafts, that's a type of therapy. They have people who go to school, get a degree that says a master's degree or something. They hire themselves out and you pay them a lot of money to tell you to go get a needle and thread. So that being said, when I went to North Carolina that summer, this is what I had. This little bag, and it has a needle and thread in it and some small scissors. Well, when Hannibal died, not only was I in the middle of 4 acres by myself and a small pew pew, I didn't even have a big one because I was just in my car. I bought a 1 bedroom mobile home and had it there to sleep in. And I was distraught. So I took this little bag and I had a little bag with some scraps in it. And I went to either a quilt shop or Wally World and I got some small pieces of fabric. And that's what I made this quilt with. I looked at the back of it because it's totally made by hand. And it's like my grandmother used to make quilts. Maybe it's upside down, but it's a hand sewn label. I'm going to rename it Grandma's Hands. The real Hannibal. That's right, Resilient Dad. I like books, a lot of books. a lot of books. I read books about everything, real history. I have, speaking of books, I have a whole set of biographies of not only Anglo Americans, but especially African Americans, Black people, because I want my great grandchildren to not have to go to a library, to not have to Google it. I have I have the whole set. This must be about 30 or 40 books. My bookcase broke, so they're on the floor beside me, like Colin Powell, Alex Haley. I think you guys know this guy, Muhammad Ali. Books about remedies of dogs and cats. All kinds of books. But going back to this quilt, I remember my grandmother used to just put pieces of of fabric together, and I had all these mismatched colors, all of these. Today, I wish I, instead of pink, I don't like pink. I'm not a pink kind of girl. But I had this pink that I had access to. Mind you, the 4 acres of property was out in the country, 12 miles from the nearest town. In order to get to Wally World or a quilting store, that was at least 35 miles. So all of these were little pieces of fabric, and I took a piece of cardboard. I'll never forget, it was 8.5 inches, and I used that for a template. Hello, Casings 55. Thank you and welcome. And then I just sew whatever blocks of fabric I could put my hands on until they made 8.5 inches in a square block. Then later on, I went and I could find some 100% cotton fabric. It's a pretty thick. I use cotton batting, and then I started hand quilting it for therapy just to get my mind off of losing my Hannibal. And then one of my mother's friends, an elderly lady who used to love to hand quilt, said she would finish hand quilting it for me, and she did. But I was talking to David Corey with Quilts the other day, and he mentioned that he remembered his grandmother tying knots. Have you guys ever seen the quilts with the knots on them? Well, people who didn't have money, quilting, there are two kinds of quilting. Quilting as an art and quilting as a craft, where people put fabric together to keep warm, to keep their babies warm, to keep from freezing to death. So they use feed sack, they use old clothes. Whereas the people who had money, the wealthy people, used to go to the dry goods store, and you hear about them having calico, or like during the Civil War when they had the blockade on the East Coast, where they did homespun. They grew their own cotton and spun it and wove it. So actually, the quilt that G Mama Grows has homespun in it. That's what it's made of. It was an antique quilt that I refurbished. So some of you were saying yes that you have heard of it. So this quilt, I it has small hand stitching. People that were poor did not do fancy little stitches, 20, 21 stitches to the inch. They were big, they call it big stitch quilting, because they just needed to hold the sides together to put it on the floor to make pallets, or on their bed so they'd have something to sleep on. People in the covered wagons and the Trail of Tears, they didn't have fancy quilts and all of this. In fact, my mom told me that she remembers people putting old coats in quilts. My grandmother used to dye feed sacks that food came in for, like the hogs and the chickens. Mommy used to call them biddies, the little bitty chickens they had when she was a little girl. And they would use the sacks that the feed came in, bleach them out and wash them and put them together for the backing. My grandparents in the South, I had two grandparents in Pennsylvania, two in North Carolina. The two in North Carolina were sharecroppers. So Grandma Della would take the thread from stringing tobacco, as they called it, stringing bacca. Maria Graham said her mother made one by hand. Took her 8 months to make it. Yeah, my cousin said stringing tobacco. So I wanted to learn how to do tobacco because back then the women made 50 cents an hour and the men made 60 cents. I got nothing for cleaning up the house in Connecticut, and I wanted to make the 50 cents an hour. But daddy wouldn't let us work when we were in high school growing up because he said that he didn't want his kids to live like he did. He's quit school in the 8th grade because all of his brothers and sisters had to work on the farm. They were sharecroppers, and everybody had to work in order to survive. So this quilt is actually the kind of quilt my aunt Ruth asked me about the quilt. She said, "Is it the quilt that Mama used to make?" These are exactly the kinds of quilts that Grandma used to make. All kinds of mismatch fabric. It was not always cotton. Hola, bougie prepper. Hola, buenas tardes. Thank you for coming, bougie. I expect you'll be doing some prepping and making some quilts for your new place. And so this whole thing is hand done. But what I think I'm going to do to dress it up is what David Corey said, and take some embroidery thread or string and tie the old fashioned knots on there. The old fashioned knots in honor of the old school quilts. As you know, most of you, I make my quilts on the sewing machine. I do some hand sewing, but it is what it is. And this was one of my first quilts. I didn't start painting until I was 66. I started quilting when I was 50, when I bought a colonial house not too far from here in New Haven, Connecticut, and my mother wanted a quilt. I was willing to pay thousands to get a quilt like the Amish quilts and whatnot. I couldn't find anybody to make a quilt that was like 120 inches by 120 inches. So I went and got a book. I always knew how to sew. I've been sewing since I was 6 or 7 years old, and I knew how to make clothes. So I got the directions, and I ended up making my mother her first quilt. Uh-oh, it's still over there. It's a little bedraggled now. It's about 25 years old. Some of you have seen it before, but by putting it in the washing machine, it started pulling apart after the years. And oh, some trivia for those of you who didn't know, the quilts back in the day, I talked about them having straw or old coats. They didn't wash them. They didn't wash them. They hung them out in the spring in the sun and let the sun bleach them and sanitize them. You couldn't put them through those old washing machines out in the front yard with the electricity and the rollers on it. People used to get their hands caught in it or their breasts caught in it, whatever. Those were some rough machines, but that's what my grandmother had. Crystal Whole New Perspective says she has her grandparents' quilts. One of them is so heavy you can't move over them. You're under the quilt, you want to turn over, get up, go tinkle in the middle of the night. You roll the quilt back, get up, go to the bathroom. Hope none of your sisters or brothers got in your warm spot in the bed. in the bed. But you know what? Those were the good old days. I remember them, remember them. But what I wanted to tell you guys is that I want each of you to know how to sew. And we're going to go over there and do a couple of things. So I want each of you to know how to make a quilt, even if you just tie it. This one was hand sewn. Oh, I asked my aunts about my grandmother quilting because they didn't do quilting in the summer. They were too busy. No, they didn't use burlap. Burlap casings 55 is real scratchy. It's real scratchy. What they used were feed sacks. As a matter of fact, the backing that I put on my fancy quilt, Miss Mignon, This, I'll put it as close as I can so that you can see it. This is, it's coarse, it's coarser than fabric. And this is a 1943 feed sack fabric that I found and I saved to make something special with. And I ended up using it for this. What they used a lot back in the old days, Casings 55 and all of you, was unbleached muslin. Unbleached muslin. I like unbleached muslin. I'm reaching for something because I had something to show you guys. And this is what unbleached muslin looks like. I'll put it real close. It's not real coarse, it's not real fine. This piece happens to have a piece of freezer paper on the back of it because I was preparing this, and this is what I would have liked to have between these blocks. This is what my grandmother used to put on the back of all her old quilts, was unbleached muslin, and it would get real soft the older that it gets. But you can also take unbleached muslin, iron freezer paper on it, and use it for painting. You can use it for artwork. You can draw on it. As a matter of fact, you can take Crayola crayons, only Crayola. I don't know why. I guess the other knockoffs from the other stores don't have enough wax in them. But if you draw on it with a Crayola crayon and put freezer paper or butcher paper over it and heat set it, it will last forever. Hello, Barb Brownlee. Thank you for coming and welcome, welcome, welcome. And I appreciate all of you who take your time to come here. I appreciate all of you who are members. I appreciate all of you who are subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. So, and I want to thank all of you moderators who keep me above water, who post the links, who help me just make it day to day. I had no idea what I was doing when I went live. My family has a word. My dad, it's a happy day, but my dad passed on my granddaughter's birthday, which is February 22nd. So she remarried a little over a year ago, and she remarried on the day 2/22/2022. And she said, "This is me and Gramps' day. This is our day forever." So we now call 2/22 her birth anniversary. So it's not only the day that she was born, but her anniversary. And that's what I call G Mama Grows. She went live for the first time on her birthday, which was her YouTube anniversary and her birth anniversary. So going back to memberships, everybody who's a member, I will get your mailing address, and I want you to at least make a mug rug. What is a mug rug? Just an old fashioned word for a coaster that you put your coffee cup on or something, but it will remind you of your dear old Auntie Ellen. Yeah, she's a Pisces, sassy like you. She's a Pisces. My son is a Pisces. I have one son. I have one birth daughter. I have lots of sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews, because some of you who are on Facebook, you know that I have like at least 3,000 followers. I have, and so many people, all races. They call me auntie. They call me Nana. They call me mommy. And I am a lot of things to a lot of people because everybody didn't have. Thank you. You're sorry about my dog. Nikki says she loves hearing my stories. Nikki, I've had so many dogs, but they're all so special to me. They're all so special to me. If I've had one dog in my life, I've probably had 100. And when I used to breed Connie Corsos, my contract was 7 pages, and I had to like the person. They had to fill out all this information. If I didn't like them, they couldn't get a dog from me. I don't care how much money they had. Nope, you couldn't come. You couldn't come on my property. So I had them give me a copy of their driver's license to come. No, you're not coming on my property slipping and falling or any of that other stuff, or to say that you got bit. None of that. And then people would say, well, how do I know I can trust you with my driver's license? How do I know I can trust you on my property with everything I own? You want to come here and you don't want to show me your ID saying who you are? Go get a dog from somebody else and take your money with you. See, and do whatever you want to do with it. That's not nice. You can't say, Mom, if you're listening, I wasn't being bad. I was not being bad and disrespectful. So, yes. So I would like each of you to know how to make a mug rug. Towel. I've done a lot. I just did whatever I want, whatever makes me happy. I do. I do. And I was blessed that I told you that my dad came from a sharecropping family, and he worked in the fields until he was like 21. Then he moved to Connecticut and he married my mom. My mom was young. She was 17. My dad was 21. And they had 6 kids by the time she was 27. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, you know, and they gave us everything. Daddy worked 3 jobs until he was 66. He worked at night. He worked on the railroad when we were real little. Then he worked for a printing company as a maintenance man for, I want to say, 40 years or more. But he saved up his money and he had his own trucking and painting business. So when he got off from his night job at the printing factory, he went and worked his trucks. He did most of the trucking for Urban Renewable in Stamford, Connecticut. And then on the weekends, he did landscaping. My mother did, what do you call it, catering. And she catered parties for the very wealthy, and she would cook the food and take it there and serve it. And my sister Joanne and I would go there, and I'll never forget, you serve from the left and you take from the right. You had to set the table a certain way with all the fancy silverware and everything. And then you would take the dishes away. You don't put those expensive dishes and Wedgwood and all that stuff in the dishwasher. No, they had to be hand washed. You hand washed all that crystal and everything. And then when Joanne and I got in high school and we were doing majorettes and all these activities, and my mother would give us all the money, she said, okay, you guys are getting all the money. You guys can take over. So Joanne and I were doing that in high school. But as far as a job, even in college, Daddy never let us work. He didn't want us to have the life that he did. In the summers, we could work. I started tutoring when I was 13. And in the summers, I worked. My first job, I was an accountant at General Electric, and they didn't have computers then. You used an adding machine and you touch type. You touched, and you would have rolls and rolls of adding machine paper. And I remember that mommy used to drop me off at work and pick me up in the summer. And I remember being off by 1 penny. 1 penny. I couldn't leave work until I found the penny. And then you find out certain accounting things, like if you get a number reversed, like a 1 and a 9, it's usually 9 cents, a 9 cent error. I mean, all kinds of crazy things. I've been working forever. So, yes, I've done a lot of things and had a lot of things, but I've also worked very hard in my life, which is why this is what I do. I retired early and I only do what I want to do. Could I be doing that? I could still be out in the world working for a living. As you probably figured out, I have a few degrees. I don't want to. I don't want to. This is what I want to do. And I do it for free. I do it because I want to. I want to share the cultural experience that I've had in life. For those of you who don't have a grandma here on earth anymore or other people, I'll be here for you. And that's my mission. That's my mission. So, talk about shady people. I want to tell you one more thing before I go over to the craft area. I waited. Sassy says I'm inspiring. Thank you. I hope to be. I hope to be. And because I've had others that inspired me. For example, that little, this little gold pin on this hat, I've had this since I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. My Aunt Sally gave it to me. I always like pretty things. And she would say, uh, Penny, pretty girls deserve pretty things, but you need to earn them. Nobody's going to give you anything. You need to earn it. And she gave me that little pin. And there were other family members who hated her, and for some reason she liked me. She picked me, I guess, to spoil, probably because I was so fresh. Oh, she told me about one time when I was like 2 or 3 years old, and she spanked my little bottom because she worked as a governess back then, or I guess they call it a nanny now, and she worked for a really wealthy family, and her husband, my uncle, did too. So they were never home or seldom home at the same time. They lived in at their job. So she said I came over one day and I was sitting on a stool, and I asked her, I said, "So where's Uncle Willie?" And she said, "He's working." And then she said, I told her, "Oh, you to somebody should be working with your evil self." And that's when she fired my little behind up. Who says that? Like a 3-year old talking about you're just somebody that should be working with your evil self. But yeah, I pretty much said what I thought. So, basically, you guys, I want you to do what you love and love what you do. I have worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time. I have worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time. As a consultant, I remember working for doing mergers and acquisitions, all kinds of legal stuff. I was a senior corporate paralegal for many years. That before I got my MBA, went to law school a couple of years. You were putting time, yeah, you were putting a time out. No, there wasn't no timeout. You got your butt heated up. That's what you did. That's what you did. And my mother, Mommy, I'm not going to say how old you are. My mother can't hit you now. So if you do something and she has something in her hand, you can throw, she's going to throw it at you. She's going to throw it at you. But no matter how many, we always had everything. We always had a big garden. Everybody always came to our house, all the cousins, holidays. I was telling you about my cousin Pat, who is blind now, and she was talking about when we were growing up. And on holidays, we used to go to the park, and it was a big park, and we'd have big picnics all day long. We'd be barbecuing. And Pat said, "You, Penny, and Aunt Clara would be in charge of preparing the food." And we would have coolers and coolers. Everybody came to our place to eat. I would make the custard for the vanilla ice cream, the kind you churn it and churn it. G Mama Groves said she works 3 jobs. Her son worked one and stay home tired. Yep. You didn't think about being tired. All you thought about was, making it to the next day, having what you needed for your family. If mommy had one candy bar, she would break it into 6 pieces. I think some of you heard me tell the story about when I was like in elementary school and I would go to the store and with $1, and with $1 I could get a loaf of bread, a quart of milk, some bologna, and like a pint of ice cream or something. And that would be our lunch for the day, and we would all get like a couple spoons of it before we started making it. But there was no such thing as not making it. There was no such thing. No such thing. So, how many of you? I'm gonna do a quick little giveaway. A quick little give. Oh no! First, I want to tell you about something. My neighbors, I barter. Yesterday, there was a knock on the door, and one of my neighbors was going to the store. So she said, "Well, do you know what? Need anything?" I said, "Yeah, get me one." Oh, Nikki accidentally typed a whole news perspective. Oh, that was a timeout. Oh, sorry, Krista. We wouldn't do that to you. Oh, we wouldn't do that to you. So, are you back? Are you back, Crystal? Whole new perspective. Hey, Juicing with Jay. How are you doing? Thank you for coming and welcome. Thanks. Oh, thanks, G Mama Grows. So, G Mama Grows, I hope you fixed it. I hope you fixed it. So I thought there was a knock on the door. One of my neighbors has a farm nearby, and he has chickens, and he feeds them all this organic stuff, strawberries, kale, everything. Very little commercial chicken food. But I went to the door, and I have a little service dog. He never barks. He never barks unless somebody comes near me or near my door. So he was barking. Even Auntie Joanne, if she hears Hershey bark, she'll say, "What's Hershey barking at?" Because it's a concern. She knows that she didn't mean it, Crystal. Nikki would never do that to you. And I went to my door, and he dropped off a dozen eggs, and they were, I think one or two were white, one was blue, which means I forgot the name of the chickens that named the blue eggs. I said it earlier. And the others were different colors of brown. But I was thinking it was a bell pepper on my doorknob. I picked it up and dropped it flat on the floor. If those eggs were from the store, they would have all been broken. One of them had one little dent, and I kept it moving. But then my neighbor came by, and those of you who are new to roots and whatnot, you know that you can eat a whole dandelion plant. I can't even imagine all the years I spent with those long forks picking dandelions out of my lawn. And you can, the entire plant, leaves, flowers, everything is edible. But look, somebody gave me some organic roasted dandelion root. So it's like coffee. So I will be testing this out this week. Crystal says she knew that she would get back in. She knew that she would get back in. So, oh, and I have one more thing to show you. This is another little handmade quilt, and I want to show you. Actually, the front is sewn on sewing machine. These Maria Graham were 2.5 inch blocks. When they're sewn together, they are 1.5 inches, and you just lay them out in a grid and sew them back together, and it made a heart. Little sis, the everyday life of an OCD chick. Yes. So this is what I put. I used to have different kind of furniture. This apartment is kind of mostly modern, but a couple of antique pieces. And I had one of those big old tapestry chairs, and I used to and it was like light with the flowers on it. And I put this over the back of it so that, hair and stuff wouldn't stain the back of it. So thank you, Crystal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to have a small giveaway. Beautiful handmade quilt with the heart. I love hearts. I love hearts. So we will have a small giveaway just because I want to do something to give back. G Mama Gross says, "Wow, that's awesome. She hasn't tried roasted dandelion roots. You don't drink coffee either, but it's worth trying. It's supposed to be caffeine free and good for you. Whatever the minerals and things that are good that make it tea do the same thing." And Something this small, you guys, I want you to think of quilts as not necessarily a big thing, a bed thing, but something just to give somebody as a souvenir, a memory, something. So everybody who becomes a member and joins the club, it's $1.99 a month, will get a little kit so that you at least have a mug rug to remind you of Auntie Ellen. So, quickly, we're going to do a little giveaway. If G Mama Grows will put start in the chat, and I want you to pick a number, everybody in here, from from 1 to 50. And what I'm going to give away is just a small, not sewing, that's sewing on the brain, a small paint set for painting details like on rocks, and a little paint thing. So G Mama, G Mama put start, and so put a number in, and I will tell you where to start. And I won't say who won because I always don't see the right one. So I'll let it get verified before. Keep going. 1 to 50. 1 to 50. And in between, I just want to say that the chat is coming on next at 7 o'clock. Nikki, the everyday life of an OCD-ish chick. Bouger Prepper will probably be there, and Stacy Hands in the Dirt. I hope he brought his doctor's note when his little hips came back from wherever he was last week. Keep going, you guys. I'm looking. I'm getting different numbers that from one screen to the other. Keep going. Keep going. Numbers 1 through 50. Nobody has it yet. Keep going. Keep going. Close, but no cigar. Keep going. A couple of you are really, really close. Really, really close. Nope, I don't see it. Keep going. Keep going. And whoever wins, just send me your email address and I will send it to you. Oh, you guys have hit above it, below it, but not the number. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. I guess I picked a good number. Keep going. Keep going. I can't believe that you didn't get it yet. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. This is funny. Wow, the chat's going really fast. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Hello, Mike's Chaotic Gardening. Thank you for coming. We're guessing numbers 1 to 50. Oh my gosh, you guys have hit exactly above it, exactly below it. Keep going. Keep going, you guys. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, Joanne Stevens got it. I think. Stop. Stop. I'm going to not confirm it, but here's the number. And what it is 47. It's my age backwards, 74. So the number is 47. Bouger Prepper has it, but she was the second one. But since it took you guys so long, can I see up here, you guys? I don't know if you can see it. Where Joanne Steven has it up there, and then it's still going. You guys guess another number, but 47. Joanne Stevens says, give it to Bouger. Yes, stop. Okay, Bouger. You will be proud the proud owner of some new. Congratulations, Auntie Joanne Stevens. Thank you. Thank you. That was fun. So, Bouger, email me your new address, and Juicing with Jay. Thank you for those wonderful, wonderful lemons that you sent me. And the retired gardener, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And Jay, when you go to the post office box, Juicing with Jay was first. Okay, my Renaissance grandma said juicing with Jay can wait. It's not a problem. We'll fix it. Okay, so then, Bouger Prepper, can somebody show me where juicing with Jay said 47 above? Because I didn't see it. I see Bouger. Don't worry, Jay. Don't worry. Auntie Ellen's not a ripoff artist. So 47. Okay, so at my Renaissance grandma, I don't know how to see the numbers. Oh, at 551? How do you find that on the phone? I'll tell you what. I will tell you what. Because Juicing with Jay says Bouger got it. I don't understand. But guess what, Juicing with Jay? Go to your mailbox. You have a gift in there anyway. I can't keep a secret. Hey, Renaissance Gardener, my Grammy's Journal. And I sent you a couple of gifts, Jay. So I think Jay is giving it to Bouger. Thank you, you guys. You know what? I keep saying I'm going to do it. The next time Juicing with Jay is passing the gift to Bouger Prepper. Thank you, sir. That is so kind of you. And I passed you a gift that you didn't even know anyway. You've got something nice at the mailbox. I was going to surprise you, but I can't keep secrets. So, you guys, I want to, hi, the retired gardener. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming. And I am going to, I'm going to be making up some kids. Juicing with Jay. Gracias, mi amor. Boucher Prepper says. And these are, this is a kit to make a casserole dish. If anybody's interested in making some, and it has the top, the backing, and some batting pre-cut. Bouger Prepper says, thank you, Elder, my Renaissance grandma. My Renaissance grandma. Those of you who are content creators, can you please put a 3 in the chat just so the numbers don't get mixed up with other numbers? Put a number 3 in the chat so that others can see. Diversity Love was listening and cooking pineapple rice. Oh, you know what, Diversity Love? I love, oh my goodness, what is the white pineapple that they have in Hawaii? Well, your brain goes dead, as you know. Unbiased LLC is a content creator. She does crafting and sewing. Juicing with Jay does prepping of natural foods. Whole New Perspective does canning. G Mama grows. We all grow a little something something. Sassy is a content creator. She's lately been going to the Western shows. Mike's Chaotic Gardening is growing, growing, growing. You guys, guess what? I got the new little Saker saw, and I did a little bit out back. Well, not a little. It's not out back in my community garden, and they trimmed it. I can finally get some sunlight in my garden. I can't believe it. Maybe something will grow and I will have a crop. I saw your tomahawk steak, Mike, on your grill. I saw that little raggedy tomahawk steak. Mouth was watering. It was so big, you could only eat half of it. You could only eat half of it. One of my neighbors in the community garden has corn growing. He has a cherry tree that has three different kinds of cherries on it. I have blueberries. I have a fig tree that I thought died last year from the bull's garden, and it grew. Juicing with Jay, thanks for watching me game last night. I appreciate each and every one of you. So I'm going to go over. Thank you for all of your support. I appreciate each and every one of you. Those of you who are in the bushes, please come back and leave a comment so that I will know that you were here. You just filled your Saker video too. You were busy today. Yep, those are good. They're good for small branches. Above a half an inch, it's a little bit of work. But Auntie Nana wasn't doing all that anyway. Somebody else did that part or up high. So let's go over to see Nikki and Stacy and Bouger, who's ever hanging out at the chat. Have a fantastic evening, everyone. Peace, love, and blessings. Do what you love. Love what you do. I love you. Ego amote. Love you, mommy. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.